Imagine an engineering feat so brilliant, it kept entire communities alive through the brutal Ice Age. 50,000 years ago, the world was a frozen giant, ruled by colossal beasts. But humanity, small and fragile, had a weapon of its own, the mind.
Their survival depended on cooperation, community, and the passing of knowledge.
But as the great winter deepened, their resources dwindled. Hunger was a constant, lurking threat. A great hunt was needed. A hunt for a prize large enough to feed the clan through the winter. They stepped out into a world of giants, a land where they were not the apex predator. For danger was always lurking, a silent observer in a world of ice and shadow. And then they saw it. The great herd. A moving mountain of meat, fur, and bone. The challenge was immense. To bring one down would require more than courage. It would require genius. The hunt began. A dance of stealth and courage, honed by a lifetime of survival in a frozen world. But the herd was a living fortress. The young, protected by a wall of tusk, fur, and muscle. Their strategy was to isolate the weak, to create a moment of panic, and to strike as one. A simple stone, a moment's distraction. The first move in their deadly, calculated game. They burst from cover, a wave of desperate courage against a living mountain of flesh and bone. Their greatest weapon, the spear thrower, unleashed its full, deadly power. But against a mammoth's armor of hide, fat, and bone, even their sharpest spear was not enough. The herd's fury was unleashed. An attack on one was an attack on all. A coordinated, terrifying defense. Against such overwhelming power, there was no fight. Only a desperate, humbling retreat for their lives. They returned with nothing but a hard, bitter lesson. Direct confrontation was suicide. They had to be smarter. The bitter cold matched their bitter defeat. Direct confrontation was not a path to survival.
Empty-handed, they returned to expectant faces. The grim truth settled in. The old ways had failed. A new path, a new understanding was desperately needed.
The gnawing hunger was a constant, cruel reminder of their precarious existence. They spoke in gestures and scratches, grappling with the impossible equation of mammoth versus man.
But what if size itself could be turned against them? What if their strength became their weakness?
A pit. The ancient, simple trap, but reimagined for a creature of unimaginable scale. The landscape itself became their canvas. The natural world, their greatest collaborator. They searched for the perfect spot. A place where nature's contours could aid their audacious plan. The blueprint was laid, not on parchment, but in the earth itself. The ultimate engineering challenge had begun. The plan was ambitious. A grave for a giant, dug with their bare hands and simple tools. Their first enemy was the earth itself, frozen solid, a shield of ice and stone. They fought the frost with fire, using thermal shock to shatter the unyielding ground. Every piece of bone, every shard of rock, became a tool in their monumental effort. It was a community effort, a relentless assault on the earth, day after grueling day. Every member, from the strongest hunter to the youngest woman, gave their all to the great work. Every obstacle was met not with despair, but with adaptation. The rock became part of the wall. Their massive project made them vulnerable. Vigilance was a constant, exhausting necessity. The progress was slow, agonizing. They were not just digging a hole. They were digging a new future for their people. With depth came a new problem: how to lift a mountain of earth from a hole in the ground. Necessity sparked invention. They crafted baskets and ropes, tools to conquer the challenge of depth. A human crane, a symphony of muscle and teamwork, lifting their world, one basket at a time. The work was brutal, relentless. It broke their bodies, but it could not break their will. The pit was now a grave. But every grave needs its headstones, its sharp wooden teeth. They felled giants with fire and stone. A slow, patient process of destruction and creation. Each log was sharpened into a fang, a wooden dagger the size of a man, ready for the giant. The Ice Age winter was a constant, unpredictable foe, always testing their endurance. But their resolve was harder than any ice. Their work continued, their focus absolute. Slowly, their weapon took shape. A pit of death, and a forest of sharpened teeth to line it. The pit was ready for its deadly teeth. Each stake a promise of swift, brutal demise. They dug the graves for the stakes, anchoring each one with a grim precision. Each wooden fang was hammered home, a testament to their strength and unwavering focus. The pit became a deadly garden, a forest of sharpened wood. Their own creation. Every detail was inspected, every potential flaw addressed. Perfection was the only path to success. With the fangs in place, the trap needed its disguise. The forest provided its veil. A fragile web, woven with purpose, to hide the deadly depths below. Every twig, every blade of grass played its part in the illusion. The skeletal structure was complete. Soon, the deadly secret would be cloaked in the deceptive face of the familiar. The final deception began. Layer by delicate layer, the trap vanished beneath nature's own disguise.
No detail was too small. Every twig, every leaf was placed with cunning purpose.
The pit vanished. A deadly phantom, waiting beneath an innocent-looking surface. The final touch. A fresh blanket of snow, making the illusion utterly perfect, utterly deadly. A test of faith. The trap must be sturdy enough to hide, yet fragile enough to break. The psychological warfare. A subtle invitation, disguised as an ordinary path. The engineering marvel was complete. A monumental effort, now rendered invisible. This wasn't their first trap. Smaller victories had paved the way for this grand ambition. Exhausted, but not defeated, the arduous work was done. Now, the waiting began. They exploited ancient instincts, anticipating every move, every step towards oblivion. One trap was a gamble. True survival required a system, a network of death.
The pit was designed to wound. But they needed a weapon that could crush.
They found the perfect location, a narrow passage, a bottleneck where size was a disadvantage.
And there, nature had already provided the weapon. A hammer of wood, waiting to be unleashed.
Another monumental effort began. A battle of muscle and leverage against a giant of the forest. The deadfall required a different kind of strength, the tensile power of woven fiber. Hand over hand, they wove their trigger, a rope strong enough to hold back a titan. Their engineering was tested, its strength proven against their own combined power.
This was not brute force, but fine mechanics. The art of the trigger, a puzzle of wood and tension.
The components were ready, a puzzle of death, waiting to be assembled. The final assembly began, a puzzle of immense weight, where one slip meant death.
A single, fragile piece of wood, the linchpin of their entire deadly mechanism.
The rope was attached. The link between the trigger and the path below was forged. They lowered the tripwire, a silent, patient snake waiting in the shadows of the gorge. Stretched taut across the path, an almost invisible line between life and a crushing end. The wood screamed under the immense pressure, a hair's breadth from total failure, a delicate balance of death.
It held. Their calculations were correct. The physics of their primitive machine was sound.
The final act of deception. The trigger, now a ghost, hidden in plain sight.
The valley now held two great traps. Two silent, wooden prayers for their clan's survival.
The traps were set. But the waiting was its own kind of war, a battle against hunger and doubt.
They survived on smaller victories, their lesser traps providing the fuel for their greater ambition. A successful snare, a crucial kill, a reprieve from the gnawing hunger of the long wait.
The meat was a lifeline, a fuel for their patience, a bond that held their community together.
The leader watched and waited. His patience.
They rehearsed their symphony of terror, honing the sounds that would become their invisible whips.
They prepared not just for the hunt, but for the victory, sharpening the blades that would claim their prize.
The final briefing. The entire, audacious plan, committed to memory, a map of their destiny. And then, the signal! The great herds were on the move! The time for waiting was over! The wait was over. The great hunt, a culmination of all their hopes and ingenuity, was about to begin. The camp stirred to life. Every soul knew their part, every step taken with grim, urgent purpose. 2 flanks, 2 paths. The mighty herd would be squeezed, its fate sealed by human cunning. A long, freezing march. Every hidden step a part of the grand, silent strategy. He watched and learned. Their movements, their habits, all became weapons in his hands. The nudging began. A subtle pressure, designed to guide the giants without alarming them.
The subtle pressure worked. The herd turned, moving deeper into the path of their unforeseen fate.
The encircling began. Humanity, an unseen force, closing in on its colossal prey. Even minor distractions couldn't deter the ancient engineers. Their focus was absolute. The invisible wall was taking shape, a boundary of noise and fear, ready to be erected. The trap was set. The bait was taken. The colossal beasts marched. The herd was in position. The leader gave the signal. The time for subtlety was over. A wall of sound erupted. A terrifying, unnatural cacophony designed to create blind panic. From the ridges,
fire joined the assault, a pincer of fear closing in on the giants. Panic took hold. The herd surged forward, a tidal wave of flesh, bone, and terror. The earth itself groaned under the weight of their fear, an avalanche of living mountains. But the giants would not be easily herded. One bull, enraged, turned to challenge its tormentors. But the wall of fire held firm. The beast's rage was met with a courage born of desperation. The leader's eyes were fixed on a single target, a lone bull, separated from the herd's protection. In the heart of the stampede, there was only terror, a blind flight from an unseen, screaming enemy. The trap was now just moments away. The final, deadly act of their grand design was at hand.
Blinded by terror, the remnants of the herd were now prisoners of the gorge, their path dictated by human will.
Above, the hidden architects held the fate of the giants in their hands, their focus absolute.
The target approached. A matriarch, pushed by panic towards an unseen line of fate.
The final step. The weight of generations of evolution, resting on a single, unseen thread.
The tripwire was sprung, a silent signal, unleashing a thunderous wrath.
The giant's own weight pulled the trigger. A massive log, now a hammer of fate, began its terrifying plunge. Faster and faster it fell, a harbinger of doom, its shadow swallowing the path below. A cataclysmic impact. The deadfall slammed home, ending a giant's life in an instant. The gorge became a killing ground, a pileup of panic and desperation, blocking all escape.
2 giants fallen, the culmination of their ancient engineering, a triumph born of desperation and genius. The thunder of the deadfall faded, leaving a scene of chaos and unimaginable triumph.
They looked down upon their work, a scene of carnage born from a single, brilliant idea.
But the hunt was not over. The wounded giants were a new, unpredictable danger.
They descended into the killing ground, a final, dangerous act of courage required to claim their prize. Their traps had yielded an unimaginable bounty, but also a new, terrifying challenge.
They faced the wounded giant, their spears a final, merciful act to end its suffering.
The final blows were swift, a coordinated effort, a testament to their skill as hunters.
One by one, the giants were silenced, their suffering ended by the hands that had engineered their fall. And then, silence. They stood in the valley of their victory, surrounded by a bounty that would feed a generation. They had done the impossible. They had not just hunted a giant, they had conquered a species. The hunt was over, but the work, the monumental task of claiming their prize, had just begun. He ran, carrying a story too large for words, a tale of impossible victory. In the cave, they waited, a silence thick with hope and the ever-present fear of loss.
And then, the news. Not 1 giant, but 3. A bounty beyond their wildest dreams.
The news shattered their fear, igniting a joyous, unified rush to claim their future.
The entire clan marched to the kill site, a veritable army of butchers and porters. And then they saw it. The scale of their victory, a sight so immense it stole their breath. The monumental task began, guided by the leader's steady hand and strategic mind.
The first cut. A battle not of spears, but of sharp flint against an armor of hide and hair. And so the great processing began. A a monumental task that would sustain them for a year.
The first step, reclaiming the precious hide. A protective barrier against the brutal Ice Age.
Precision and skill transformed raw power into sustenance. Every cut, a calculation of survival. Against bone and sinew, brute force was necessary. A powerful, rhythmic assault on the giant's frame.
No part was wasted. Every drop of blood, every organ, a vital component of their survival. Hours turned into days. The colossal giants slowly yielded their life-giving bounty. The tusks, a prize of immense value, were extracted with careful, arduous effort. Beyond sustenance, there was respect, an ancient reverence for the spirit of the fallen giants.
The brain, a nutritional powerhouse, was meticulously collected, a vital source of energy.
As dusk approached, the sheer scale of their bounty demanded immediate action. Every piece a future meal. The work continued through the fading light, driven by the promise of life, snatched from the jaws of hunger. The hunt was over, but the true labor had just begun, securing their bounty against the ravages of time.
Their cave became a larder, a workshop, a testament to their overwhelming success. Preservation was key. They smoked the meat, a timeless technique to ward off decay and hunger. The Ice Age itself became their ally, its frozen grip a natural larder for their precious meat.
Every part of the mammoth was a gift. The hide, a promise of warmth against the winter's bite. And within the bones, the richest prize of all, the marrow, a superfood for a super predator.
The most vital nutrients were given to the most vulnerable, a display of their deep communal bonds.
And how do we know this? The bones themselves tell the story, scars etched in stone.
Forensic work reveals the truth, the precise cuts of their knives, the impact of their stone hammers.
The mammoth had given them everything: food, warmth, tools, and a secure future. The great hunt fed them through the brutal winter. Starvation was a forgotten ghost. From the bones of the fallen giant, they built new homes. The first architecture, born of ingenuity. With time and a full belly, their minds turned to art, to beauty, to legacy. The story of the Great Hunt became a lesson in strategy, passed down to ensure their future. They no longer needed to gamble on giants. Their new technology made them masters of their domain. Survival gave way to culture. Art, adornment, and identity began to flourish. And these stories, once thought lost, are being rediscovered, unearthed from the frozen soil.
Archaeologists have found the evidence, the bones of their homes, the remnants of their feasts. And in the microscopic scratches on the bone, they read the story of our ancestors' genius. The Mammoth Pitfall was not just a trap for a beast. It was the foundation of a civilization. Their story, painted in firelight, was a testament to the power of a single, brilliant idea. The ability to see not what is, but what could be. This is the spark of ingenuity. A spark that has carried us from the cave to the stars. The same fire, a different age. The same principles apply. Understanding the environment, harnessing its forces, and working together to achieve the impossible. The lever that moved a boulder now lifts our cities into the sky. The scale has changed, but the genius is the same. And at the heart of every great feat of engineering lies the most powerful tool of all: cooperation.
The ability to share a goal, to trust in the skills of others, to work as a single, intelligent unit.
This is the legacy of the mammoth hunters. Not just their tools, but their spirit of adaptability.
A spirit of resilience, of strategic thinking, in the face of overwhelming odds.
A call to appreciate the incredible intelligence and resilience of our ancient ancestors.